This is the construction for the orthocenter, which is the point of concurrency for the three altitudes of a triangle. So notice we have an obtuse triangle. So that means the altitudes, two of them are going to lie outside of the triangle, but one lies inside the triangle. So let's do that one first, as it's going to be the easiest for us. So we're going to do some labeling here. So let's label this A, B, and C. And so the first one I'm going to do is the altitude from vertex B, because that's the one that's going to lie inside the triangle. I know it's going to lie inside. So essentially we're just doing our perpendicular construction through a point off the line. So just put the point of your compass on B, make sure it's long enough to be able to hit the opposite side twice. So we're going to do an arc and an arc, okay? And then I can just keep that same distance here, and then that allows me not to have to do a double set of arcs here, because from here to here is already this length. So if I did an arc below and an arc below, they would both intersect at B anyway. So I don't have to worry about that. So make sure it's right where your pencil crossed there, and just do an arc above. Do it right where your pencil crossed for accuracy, and arc above. Now, we are just interested in the altitude. However, since we're trying to get the orthocenter, we need to extend this line as much as we can, because we need the intersection of the three altitudes. So we have to extend the altitude. So I'm not going to do a dashed line on the outside. I'm going to just do a solid line throughout, and we're going to label our points. Now, I know from already doing this construction, the orthocenter is down here, so we want to make sure extend it plenty down here. You might need a longer ruler, depending on how big your arcs were. I think I'm going to need to go down further than this, but I have to have my ruler be at least up here so I know where to put my protractor. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to do a solid line. Well, we can do a dashed line. Well, you might not know where the orthocenter is going to be, but it's going to be down here. So we're just going to do a solid line. So just know you might have to extend it. So I'm going to do a solid line like that. I'm not going to put an arrow quite yet because I might need to extend that. But what we do know is that this is a right angle right here, and we're going to label this point D. And then I just want you to put a note that BD is an altitude. And when BD is treated as the altitude, then AC is the base of the triangle. So when we do things like finding area, and just anytime we need to use height and base, the height is from a vertex to the opposite side that's perpendicular, or also called an altitude. And whichever one you choose, the base that goes with it has to be the side that it's perpendicular to. So if we're treating this as the height, this has to be considered the base of the triangle. Okay, that's the first altitude. This is the extension of the altitude, right? And so orthocenter is the point of concurrency for those three altitudes, but includes the extension. So now we need to do, let's do vertex C. So notice that when I try to do this, there's no way I can get it so that it hits right on segment AB. It's going to be the extension of AB, because there's no way from here to here is going to be perpendicular. So first thing we need to do is extend AB, and I want you to extend it as long as you can. So line it up real nice so you know that you're getting like an accurate, it's like the slope of the graph, right? And there's going to be more human error here because we're having to do extensions, okay? It's just going to happen. But this one I think is usually pretty easy to do. Okay, so now you need to make your compass big enough so that it's going to hit this twice. And it can hit both times out here on the extension. That's fine too. It doesn't have to hit for one of your arcs inside actual segment AB. It does not have to. I'm going to make mine do that because I want to, but you don't have to. All right, so I'm going to put on the very tip here. Okay, so there's my first arc and there's my second arc. So make sure it's actually going to hit there. Now I'm just going to keep it the same and do an arc above and an arc below. Actually, I might make this smaller because I think the orthocenter is close to that. So as long as it's halfway between those two arc intersections, you're fine. And then I'm still not going to do an arc below. I'm just going to do the arcs above, which is fine. We're going to make it go through point C here. Okay, so, because look, we're going to be able to see the orthocenter right now because it's going to be the intersection of those two altitudes. So we're going to line it up to draw the altitude. And I'm going to do this because I want it to extend here. I put my point right there, so that's where I'm referencing, and go through this point here. All right, just draw a solid line here. All right, so I already see where the orthocenter is going to be, so that's great. Mark the right angle here, and then let's go ahead and label that point. I'm going to label that point E, and then I'm just going to put up in my notes up here that CE is an altitude as well. And then so if CE is the altitude, then AB would play the role of the base of the triangle. So there's my orthocenter. We want to do the last one to confirm that we did a good job. See how accurate we were. So for this one, again, to be perpendicular to BC, it's going to lie outside BC. So we need to extend side BC. So line it up real nice. I'm just going to make sure it's nice and long so I don't have any issues. So I'm making sure that it lines up exactly where I want it to. There we go. That's the extension of BC. Now I'm going to rotate so I can get my arc intersections here. So again, it's got to be big enough to hit it twice, and it doesn't have to hit one of your arc intersections then there, but I'm going to make mine do that. So I'm going to extend mine just a little bit. So notice to make my compass radius, my radius for my compass bigger, I'm just pulling this pencil out. You push it in, it goes shorter, pull it out, it goes longer like that. So then I'm just going to get an arc intersection there and there. Notice I'm turning my paper so I don't have to, it's just easier for me that way. And then I can just keep this as long as it's not too close to the orthocenter. Let me see where it lands. Okay, that's okay. So put your point of the compass here, do an arc above, and we only need to do an arc above for this one. Then I'm just trying to, I hold on to the pencil so I can more easily put it exactly where I want it here. And then that arc right there. All right, so this is the last one. I don't think okay, it's long enough. So I'm going to line it up with where I put my point there on A and here, and it should go through the orthocenter. So don't force it to, it just should. And mine, can see, is it gonna be a tiny, tiny bit off? And that's okay. Like I said, there's more room for human error, a lot more human error in the orthocenter, especially when it's an obtuse triangle. All right, so let's go ahead and label this one as F. And so now we have AF is an altitude. And when AF is playing the role of the altitude, then BC is the base of the triangle. All right, so let's look at this orthocenter. So you can see this line is just a little shifted off a little bit. But right here should be my orthocenter. So I'm going to call that P, and I just want you to label that as the orthocenter. So that's the point of concurrency for the 3 altitudes of a triangle. And there's nothing really special about it, so there's no other qualities for us to label here. All right, that's the orthocenter construction. Remember, if it's an acute triangle, they might all lie on the inside, and so that's easier. And then if it's a right triangle, because the right triangle already has perpendicular, then one of the sides of the triangle is an altitude. All right, that's it.